Comparison price for Thursday, April 23rd, 2026 for a presentation of Bet365. Check out Bet365's early 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sakaris alongside Blake Price, Mike Rogerson, all his Junos hitting switches, conducting things alongside intern Elijah Ford, who got good ratings yesterday.
Yes.
We're coming to you, very good ratings. The reviews are excellent. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the Historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Blake is trapped in Toronto one more day. He'll be back with us in Terra Firma, British Columbia tomorrow. We will start with the daily poll question of the confirmed candidates. Who do you want as Canucks GM? You can vote for Kevyn Adams. You can vote for Shane Doan. You can vote for Ryan Johnson. You can vote none of the above. Do so at the Sakaris and Price X and YouTube channels. And look, we understand there are a lot of other names that are drifting around this open position. Most of it is media speculation. The 3 people we know they are interested in talking to is Ryan Johnson, because Jim Rutherford said so. Now, Ryan Johnson may already have been vetoed by the owner, Francesco Aquilini. There's reporting out there to that end, but we'll see. They have requested and been granted permission from the Toronto Maple Leafs to speak to Shane Doan, special assistant to the general manager there. And they have requested permission and been granted to speak to former Buffalo Sabres GM Kevyn Adams, who was let go early this past season. Still technically on the Buffalo payroll, which is why the permission is required. All right. So, what do you think here, Mr. Price? Do you have an inclination for Adams, Doan, or Johnson?
It's tough because I think there's so many details that you don't necessarily get on these guys until you're in a room interviewing them, or if you're in the Canucks and you know exactly the ins and outs of what Ryan Johnson has pulled off and how he's impressed you and all that sort of thing. I'll say this. I gave a fairly impassioned devil's advocate opinion of Kevyn Adams yesterday, outlining what he actually deserves some credit for with regards to the rise of the Buffalo Sabres. All that being said, Matt, there's too much smoke around him for me to feel confident enough to take that leap and for me to overcome. Why are you going from one dumpster fire to a guy that's been involved? He's been dumpster fire adjacent at very best. I just don't think I've got the nerve to do that.
Yep,
so then it's down to the devil you know versus the devil you don't. In Ryan Johnson and Shane Doan. I think Shane Doan's a very impressive guy. I think he'll probably make a great GM. Are you the one that wants to be the person that gives him that chance? That's the question. It's flying blind, but here's the thing. The Canucks aren't flying blind. Like, they know everything about Ryan Johnson. And if he hasn't won them over by now, then I guess it's going to be Shane Doan. From my seat, I have to default to the guy that I haven't heard a bad word about and knows where the bodies are buried. I'll go Ryan Johnson right now, given the choices that are there, but I'm not going to scream bloody murder if it ends up being Shane Doan.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. If I felt like Jim Rutherford was sticking around, even for just this season, I would be far more inclined to support a Ryan Johnson general manager. If Jim Rutherford is out after the draft and it's Ryan Johnson as first-time GM with Michael Doyle and Francesco Aquilini above him, to me, those are the conditions that brought us the end of the Benning era with Frank and Jim, and needless to say, an organization that wasn't appropriately managed. And Ron Johnson has a lot less experience in front offices than even Bennington at that time, right? As a hockey lifer. And really the same sort of goes for Shane Doan as well, because he doesn't have a ton of experience in front offices either. In fact, he hasn't even risen to the level of assistant general manager, running his own team like Ron Johnson has with the Abbotsford Canucks. The thing about Doan, and this goes beyond just his playing aptitude, and he was a fantastic player, he is universally beloved. I met a guy here in the elevator today. Hey, Matt, been listening to the show. What do you think about Doan? And I said, well, Shane Doan is a very good communicator. He's got excellent people skills. He's got time for people. He makes people feel better about themselves in situations after you spend some time with them. I was encouraged to see his name on the list from the Canucks. All of that said, this is a very big lift. And are you going to entrust that to a guy who thus far has been, head of development and an assistant in a very thick Toronto Maple Leafs front office, right? Like there are a lot of cooks in that kitchen. He is well down the pecking order. Somebody told me he stood on the table for McKelly, who didn't work out for the Leafs. So I'm not sure what he was able to influence there other than some insight perhaps on players that he knew from his Coyote days. I, like you on the Adams file, have my reservations. I do think most of the dysfunction of Buffalo is at the ownership Pegula level, though. And again, he was completely unqualified and not ready to be the general manager when they hired him and then had him gut the front office. So, as we talked about earlier in the week, everybody inherits a poker hand. Kevyn Adams inherited something close to a 7-2 offsuit in the Buffalo Sabres. And yeah, you have to take a look at his work now and say it looks a lot better with the passage of time and with some introspection. I also like the idea that he has worked for a particularly high maintenance and demanding, sometimes dysfunctional owner. I would have to think there were some learnings there. But I'm going none of the above. I am not yet won over by any of these candidates, although I sure would like to hear more about Shane Doan's vision, because he strikes me as a guy who's got a bright future, as you pointed out. And if he has been in the back channels putting together a plan and a vision, much like the Gillis 17-page or whatever it is that's been circulating, like if he has that sort of formulated in his mind and it has been worked on and he's gotten down into precise details, then I could certainly be won over by Shane Doan.
And he strikes me as sort of a Joe Sakic type. Like this is a guy who's stoic and pensive, and like I think he'll get it pretty quickly. But until he's done it, he hasn't done it. And I'll also say this, Matt. Part of me wants to say, hey, despite the dumpster fire, there seems to be a lot of interest in this Canucks job. I do also wonder, Matt, is there a chance that a very reasonable person goes into an interview with the Vancouver Canucks brass and ownership, which is supposed to start next week in person? And is there a chance that one of these guys comes out of that interview going, I'm not getting involved with this setup?
It's possible. I'm not sure we'll know, Blake, but it is absolutely possible. Now, the other thing that comes, two other things here I want to mention. I think it would be very, very important for someone like Shane Doan in terms of who are you going to hire, who are you going to be your chief deputies. Now, we've heard a name there, and we'll get into Ray Whitney in a second. I'm a little leery of that because I think I would want a more experienced hand than Ray Whitney with a first-time general manager. The other thing on Doan is, please do not tell me his quote-unquote marquee value and the owner's affinity for marquee value are going to come into the equation here. The Vancouver Canucks will not sell a single additional ticket next year based on the playing aptitude of the guy sitting in the general manager's chair. Right? Can we agree on that?
Yep.
It does not matter what you achieved as a player in the National Hockey League in terms of what you can bring to this franchise and whether or not you're the right guy for the job of reconstruction, rebuilding this franchise. Because, I mean,
that's how we see it.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, Blake. Like, if the first words out of Francesco's mouth was, "Oh, I watched Shane Doan for his 20-year, what an illustrious career. He was a fantastic player." Oh boy, we got some trouble. Now, I don't want to, and as we talked about since last Friday, we are trying to keep as open a mind as possible on all of these candidates. So I don't want to prejudge him and say, oh, because he was a great player, that means he falls short in certain areas of being a general manager. The fact of the matter is, I just don't know at this stage. I know he's a very likable, personable guy with good communication skills. I know he sat there and stuck it out with great loyalty to an absolute basket case franchise in the Arizona Coyotes. He would have seen a lot of shit in Phoenix in terms of what not to do. And if he was, filing that away in his brain for the day that I get a chance to run my own hockey team, then great. And that's something that could serve him quite well. But the fact of the matter is, I just don't know right now. So I'm voting none of the above.
The only two guys that I can speak with absolute authority on what I think, that I can speak with absolute conviction on how I believe in it, Gilman and Gillis. Like I've got absolute conviction on their suitability. And because there's not a lot of guys with like if Lou Lamoriello was up for the job, I could speak with relative conviction on a guy like that with an extensive resume. You know exactly what he's bringing to the table. Matt, there's still so much unknown about so many of these candidates because they're either first-timers or just absolutely newcomers on the scene, like a Doan. Like, it's hard to speak with absolute conviction of, I know that guy is not right for the job or he is right for the job. It's tough. It's tough work.
Yep. Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, Foolish Winery. Bass Ackwards? Canucks face criticism on their process of hiring a new GM. Not only are there multiple lists, including one from the team's business president, Michael Doyle, according to reports, but they've got their POHO either replacing himself or hiring the GM who will ultimately report to a new POHO. As mentioned, former Buffalo GM Kevyn Adams, Toronto executive Shane Doan, Ryan Johnson, AGM, are the known candidates at the moment. This came up on our buddy Jeff Merrick's program, The Sheet, with former Canucks general manager Brian Burke. The two of them had a discussion about the process the Canucks are using to hire this GM.
So they're hiring a new general manager. If you listen to Rutherford's press conference on Friday, he's not committing to more than it seems like a few months, and then he's going to decide on his future there. So then you're going to have a new president of hockey operations come in, and he already has a manager that he didn't hire. We don't know if the coach will or will not be there by then. You're a big guy on order, right? Does the order seem like way out of whack here?
The sequence doesn't make much sense. It made sense to me to make a change with Patrick Allvin. Well, I didn't understand it without a formal plan in place. But when Jimmy met with the media and talked about it, it seemed a little backwards to me. Same thing. I'm going to hire a new GM. He'll hire the new coach, and then I'm going to move on probably, in which case you hired a GM and then not been there to help him. So I think it's backwards, but I'm not sure what goes anywhere with ownership.
Well, a few things there. As many know, Brian Burke and Francesco Aquilini are the best of buddies. Also, when Jeff talks about a new POHO, I'm not sure there will be a new president of hockey operations. That's an open-ended question. The GM could effectively be the president of hockey operations, and I've long talked about not getting hung up on titles on this program. Who is the final hockey decision maker? That's what matters, whether the name is president of hockey operations.
And Matt, Jim Rutherford can say that all he wants. Like he said that in his press conference. He's not going to be here. So it's not his decision who makes the hockey decisions ultimately, right? So,
right.
Again, that's where the ass backwardsness is really impactful here.
Well, and Brian Burke's right with regards to if Rutherford leaves after the draft, he's not there to help the new general manager. If Rutherford stays through the season, then at least you have a year where you have a wise old hockey hand who can be a consultant for this new general manager as they make the decisions. And if it is a first-time general manager, as we talked about in the poll question, I think that would still be valuable. I think that would still be useful. I don't envision a power struggle with Rutherford wanting to keep both hands on the wheel going forward. Maybe I'm naive about that, but based on what I heard from Rutherford on Friday, I mean, the writing is on the wall. I think he understands it, and I do think that there's a desire there to leave the Vancouver Canucks in a better place than when he inherited it. And I don't think you can make that argument right now. So I think Rutherford's interest would align with helping out the new GM as best possible if he stays on beyond the draft. Now,
yes, that's a big if.
Yeah, we'll see. We know Jimmy's leaving. We just don't know when. David Pagnotta and Irf Gafar on the DFO Insider Edition reporting they started making calls over the course of the weekend. There has been lots of interest, as Blake alluded to, in the president of hockey operations and GM roles, which is interesting in and of itself, right? And that further suggests that Rutherford is not for long here. Pagnotta mentioned Boston assistant general manager Jamie Langenbrunner and New York director of player personnel Ryan Bowness. Gafar brought up former GMs Marc Bergevin in Montreal, Brad Treliving, Calgary, Toronto, and Tom Fitzgerald in New Jersey. The interesting thing about Ryan Bowness, somebody brought up to me, he's very similar to the Jim Benning profile, just a lot younger. He's effectively a scout. He's a scout who's run an AHL team, so he does have that managerial experience, but this would absolutely be shopping from the scout aisle as opposed to, as we've talked about, the more business, administrative, legal, contract, cap, those sorts of considerations in terms of the big files that general manager has to deal with. Biz Nasty, of all people, Paul Bissonnette.
Before we get to Biz Nasty, let's just go over the other little nugget there from Irf, was that he believes that it's very possible the first person hired gets elevated to just president and then hires a GM on top of that.
Yes.
So,
and Rutherford alluded to that when he said one or maybe two people on Friday, right? So I think that was the contingency. If I leave and they see fit to replace my position alongside replacing the GM's position, it could be two people.
So I don't think like Ryan Johnson's going to be the first hire. He's elevated to president and then brings in a GM. I think it's a bigger name that gets brought in first, elevated to president, elevate Ryan Johnson at that point. Again, order matters here. And I just don't know why you wouldn't do it all in one fell swoop. Say that Jim Rutherford is an advisor in this search, and we're hiring a president and a general manager. Like, just why are you making this so complicated? I just don't get it.
Biz Nasty, Paul Bissonnette, on his podcast, Spit and Chicklets, says he's hearing the name of former NHLer Ray Whitney, who lives in Kelowna, isn't working in the NHL at the moment. According to Biz, would love to work for the Canucks alongside his friend Shane Doan. So there you go, Blake. There's your 2-for-1, if you will. And again, the titles don't matter. Whether it's POHO and GM or it's GM or AGM, it doesn't really matter. Who's the chief hockey decision maker? Who's the chief deputy lieutenant with most influence? Whitney has worked in the NHL's Department of Player Safety before. I'm not sure that's a feather in his cap or something I'd want to highlight in the interview. He worked as a Carolina Hurricanes scout for 5 years. He was one of the finalists for the San Jose general manager job in 2022. And he's worked with Hockey Canada on the Spengler Cup team, which Doan has done as well. So the idea of Doan and Whitney as a package deal. Very light on experience there.
Very light on experience. Boy, they'd have to nail the interview, right? I mean, you can't, with any sort of level of conviction or evidence, say they're terrible options. But you're taking a big leap of faith there. I think they're two intelligent guys. So you'd be putting your faith in intelligence, and that's about it. And that's risky. But you might be making the right choice. It's hard to know.
I've said it all week here. I am completely open to the idea of a first-time general manager and a young general manager. In fact, I prefer that profile if they come with a data background and understand, are able to grow with the franchise, grow with the team during this rebuild. But of course, understand that it goes beyond just data. You're now in a chair where you're going to have to manage human emotions, human frailties going forward. Ray
Whitney played till he was like 70. So how old is Ray Whitney these days, by the way?
Yeah, no, well, the one thing I will say,
still relatively young. Yeah.
And again, I don't want to prejudge them. Those are two recent players. How data-driven are they going to be? Now, they may walk into the interview and say, we understand how important analytics is. And by the way, here's our guy who would lead up our analytics department, and we would make a lot of data-based decisions. Hey, if something like that were to transpire, they basically understand where are the gaps in our background and how do we go out and fill them and turn our perceived weaknesses into strengths. Fantastic. Like, that's the sort of things I think you want to hear if you've got Shane Doan in a room with the understanding that Ray Whitney's going to be his chief lieutenant. Tampa Bay assistant general manager Jeff Tambellini is in the mix, according to Dollywall. Son of a former Canucks executive, of course, and Steve. The Tambellini's from Trail, deep BC hockey roots. We remember Jeff playing for the Canucks, playing for the 2011 Canucks. He was in the lineup, Game 7. We remember when Jeff made his move post-playing career, coaching in the BC Hockey League with Trail, and then making his way into scouting and eventually executive circles with Detroit and Tampa Bay. Really good communicator, Jeff. Fantastic ease with people. Some of the inexperience factors in there as well. It would be his first general manager job. He is not that deep into an executive career. So is that just a GM role? Really going to promote an AGM to a POHO role? That would be unusual.
No, unlikely that those guys are the top of the tree, but they could be the chief deputies that you've talked about.
As for the lists, our friend John Shannon, it's the second time this week, Blake, where we've transitioned. As for the lists, easy for me to say. As for the lists, our friend John Shannon shed some insight. They aren't hiring a search firm. They have created a group of 3 guys: Rutherford, Doyle, Francesco Aquilini. They are the search committee. Each of them will bring names to the table for discussion. He said that on the Oilers Now program in Edmonton. And again, the lists are not in and of themselves a problem. The exercise calls for a big brainstorm and different ideas from different people. Now, you can certainly question the credentials of Doyle in the room to be involved. Same with Francesco, but of course, Francesco is the owner. He's making the call. He's writing the checks. He has to work with the new guy beyond Jim Rutherford. Doyle does too. I can understand why Canucks fans and outsiders are taking a harsh view on this and the lists, because the optics aren't great. Let's face it, the franchise hasn't won the benefit of the doubt here. They've been dysfunctional, and there is a risk of cart before horse, again, as Rob Williams was talking about when he joined our show yesterday. You're going to want to hear what Frank Curado says on this, though, because I think, Frankie is more aligned with the alternative view, the glass half full view, if you will, that we put forward yesterday in terms of, don't just immediately knee jerk, oh, this is terrible, 3 different lists from 3 different people. No. Most positions of this ilk are hired by a search committee. I mean, Keith Pelly is not hiring the Leafs' new hockey boss alone. Like, the Rogers guys above him are involved in that. That's a very big hire. So It's very rarely a one-person search committee for positions of this stature.
And they often hire these firms that actually they're not hockey executive firms. You know, they're headhunters of a very broad spectrum. So those guys aren't hockey people either. They can be.
I wouldn't say Neil Glasberg is that. He seemingly is very entrenched in hockey and represents a lot of these.
But it's not just him in that business.
No, of course not. Of course not. As for Doyle, and mentioned this the last couple of days, his department is now the business side of the Vancouver Canucks. His department is now very reliant on the hockey operations people. Because we're going through a rebuild, a declared rebuild, for the first time with the Vancouver Canucks. It's Michael Doyle's job to sell tickets, sell sponsorship, drive the revenues of Canucks Sports Entertainment. He is subject to the performance of the club on the ice. And we got Canucks Clay on the program later, and we said to him, Clay, you're giving up your season tickets. Does the home record of, what was it, 9-27-5 have anything to do with it? And he said, well, it has to, of course. I mean, 41 games this year, we saw 9 wins. So Doyle is now very reliant on the hockey ops guy. And again, Doyle's department has outperformed the hockey operations guys for some time here because the building's been relatively full and the business of the Canucks, certainly from the outside looking in, still looks quite robust. So at the very least, the new GM is going to have to work hand in hand with Michael Doyle. And Blake, could there be a world where the Canucks change the reporting structure and the hockey boss reports to the business boss, Michael Doyle, going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. That would be the kind of Canucky sort of decision making.
Because Doyle's done very well by the Aquilinis, right? Like if they say we trust Michael Doyle more than we've trust any of the hockey operations guys because of how so many have failed us here. I do understand that. It's certainly not an ideal reporting structure. And in fact, Aquilini took an entirely diametrically opposed view on that when he elevated Gillis to president of the club. Because remember, Gillis wasn't just president of hockey operations. He was president of the club. Like at one point, Victor DeBonis reported to Mike, and Mike was smart enough to say, look, Victor, you're great at what you do. I am not going to micromanage the business side of this team. I got my hands full on hockey. You go ahead and do what you're going to do. But there was a time, and I believe the line that was used at the time was, we want to put hockey first, and that's why Gillis was named the president of the team, bumping up from general manager. So it would be a departure from that view all those years ago. But it's something that when I put myself in Francesco's shoes, I can see him making a call like that.
The separation of church and state in society is important to make sure that one does not influence the other. And I would say the same thing about the separation of hockey ops and business ops. It is very important that hockey ops operates in a vacuum of putting the best hockey team on the ice possible, especially for a team that theoretically, Matt, operates as a full cap team. You could make the argument that in Nashville, where there's a budget, there's a symbiosis there that needs to be there. These Canadian teams, they're operating to the cap. You know what the budget is for that. Let the hockey ops people just do their business without the feeling that they're being hovered over by the business guy. And I think that's an important distinction here with this team.
Especially a first time in charge of hockey ops business guy, right? Because we know how they can get. That's a fantastic point on a team like Nashville. Vis-a-vis a team like the Canucks, who traditionally have spent to the cap, to the infinite credit of the Aquilinis. Outside of that one COVID offseason where they turned off the taps, they have spent above and beyond on the hockey product. I hear you, and it's absolutely a fair philosophy, separation of church and state. and not having business considerations creep into hockey moves. We've seen that in the past. It has mostly failed. Counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a choice between Aquilini and Doyle, who do you want the new hockey ops guy reporting to? Because if he reports to the owner, does the owner get involved like in the Benning days?
I
mean, a little bit of a damned if you do.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Sophie's choice here, but the reverse of Sophie's choice. You like neither as opposed to loving both. See, the owner's always going to be involved. So if it's the owner's involved 100% versus the owner's involved 90%, I mean, I don't think it matters. I would rather choose the fewer voices, the better at that point.
Okay.
So I think I'd stay with the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand why Doyle's involved in the process, but that you've got people like John Shannon saying, oh no, like he's there as part of the search committee does make me wonder, okay, what's to become of this? Is Doyle even further rising in stature within the organization and in the eyes of the Aquilinis once the new hockey chief is in place? We shall see. We'll see what's what they will cook up here. In the interim, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, or it's a big night for some ex-Canucks. But first, a word from Yellow Dog.
Well, Yellow Dog's got 2 beers on sale in the month of April, and the month of April is ticking on by, so you don't want to miss out on the fabulous deals. Yellow Dog's got the High Five Hazy IPA. Neighborhood has the Way of Life Hazy IPA. So if you're a hazy fan, April is a hazy month for you. The tall can, 4 packs on special at your favorite government or private liquor stores.
So, Game 2, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. The Flyers lineup drops. I see Abbotsford's Noah Juleson is in the lineup. I go into the comments and I see all these Flyers fans. What's Juleson doing in the lineup? And I'm like, oh, they don't know talk. Rick Tocchet loves him some Noah Juleson. And really, this series, as fugly as it's been, is right up Noah Juleson's alley, right? Like, he can play that game. We saw it here in Vancouver when he filled in that 1 year for, what was it, 40, 60 games, whatever it was, and played admirably. Absolutely. In Tocchet hockey. And we all know what Tocchet hockey looks like. Like Noah Juleson, 2 assists last night. The Flyers take a 3-0 stranglehold in the series over the cross-state rival Pittsburgh Penguins. Attaboy, Noah Juleson.
It's really too bad. It wrecks what could have been a really fun storyline. Sidney Crosby on the winning side of a handshake line once again for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I know we left them for dead going into this season, but especially if they go down in a sweep, Matt, I don't know how you can have any expectations that the Pittsburgh Penguins in this era for Sidney Crosby will be playoff winners. So everything we just said will only get amplified, I think, if they are swept here in these playoffs.
I wonder if it picks up the Sidney might wind up in Colorado. Sidney may wind up in Montreal.
Yeah, that's what I'm hinting at.
Yeah. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, this series, and I know there were some fisticuffs, fireworks last night that maybe added some sizzle to the steak, but, well, steak, that's being too kind. This series is downright unwatchable.
Mm-hmm.
This is some of the worst hockey I've seen in the first round of the Stanley playoffs that I can ever remember. I put my best foot forward trying to watch this for 2 games. I tapped out last night for the most part. And it dawned on me, why is this so ugly? Well, we all know what Rick Tocchet hockey is about. And yet, I think you can argue here in Vancouver, well, shit, at least he had Hughes. At least he had JT Revin. At least he had Elias at his best. There is not a single Philadelphia Flyer of offensive acumen at that level. Martone has a very bright future and was outstanding in the early going of this. Unbelievable for a 19-year-old winger playing his first few NHL games. Zegras is a very good player. Don't get me wrong, a very good offensive player. But like Sanheim is no Hughes. I don't think they have a forward who's playing at the level that Miller and Pettersson were. Of course, Elias before the sharp downturn. So it's really like Rick Tocchet hockey we saw here in Vancouver 2 years ago, just without the offensive upside. And oh my God, is it tough to watch. And, full credit to them in the way they're neutralizing the Pittsburgh Penguins. But this is the number 7 versus number 8 seed in the Eastern Conference, and it looks every bit that.
Yeah, although that being said, like, if they are all buying into Tocchet hockey, part of me is somewhat intrigued as to what this looks like against a better team than Pittsburgh. And if this is a team that could, I don't think they're winning the Cup. I don't think they're going to the Cup. But I'll now give it an outside chance that they can grind out 2 playoff series wins. Like, if they play to a T, perfect defensive hockey, grind it all out, they could uglyify it and maybe reel off 8 playoff wins.
I'm 100% with you, Blake. And, of course, if they get the Carolina Hurricanes in the next round, we've seen this story with Carolina in the past, right?
Yeah.
Lots of shots, not often a lot of great chances, lots of flipping up of pucks and hoping for the best.
And Rick would be more than happy to give you the outside. You can shoot from back there all you want.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to try our best to generate grade A's at the expense of shots, and I like our chances on Freddie Anderson. I could absolutely see that. And particularly if you're still of the opinion that Carolina just lacks that elite finishing offensive touch to be able to take advantage of their best chances. Although I'd have to think with Dan Vladar they could, but hey, give credit to Vladar. He's played well for them. So,
and how brilliant does Rick Tocchet look to make his decision to leave Vancouver too, right? This team's going nowhere. Quinn's leaving. I'm bailing. Yeah. I'm going to this team, and I'm going to make them win in the playoffs immediately. Yeah. Oh.
Miller's gone. Quinn's leaving. Elias ain't ever coming back, and Thatcher is forever hurt. Philadelphia. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's Philly, too. It's his club. Like, of all the places to open up at the exact same time. Like, Kismet.
Where he got 5 years, huge cheddar, and greater job security over the next few years. If Rick Tocchet overlooks what happened here in Vancouver this year, he's gone, right? We all know that. They weren't going to keep him if he oversaw a calamity like this. So it played out exactly as we were talking about it this time last year. Vasily Podkolzin with a helper, but Edmonton falls 6-4 to Anaheim in Game 2, series tied 1-1. That could be quite fun, that series. You know how the Oilers, they want to leave these first-round opponents in it a little more than they should, right?
Absolutely.
Like LA's had
Let's make life hard.
Last 2 years the Kings have had opportunity. 2 of the last 3 years. Anyways. And how about Quinn? He plays 43 minutes and 47 seconds in Minnesota's double overtime loss to Dallas. There he is on the bench. He can still see dead people. Look at the ice time there, Blake.
Crazy.
And Dallas takes a 2-1 series lead in that one. Tonight, Senators backs against the wall against the Hurricanes at home. Got to win one or you're down 0-3. Game 3, Buffalo-Boston tied 1 apiece, and that one looks like it could be 7. And then, again, the less said about Colorado, Los Angeles, the better. So we'll leave it at that. Playoff coverage here on the Nation Network each and every day. Your ultimate playoff headquarters from expert shows, deep dives, live social updates, analytics, fantasy insights, epic goals, big hits, game-changing plays. They've got you covered. We've got you covered. One network every moment. Tune in. The DFO Rundown Daily, the sheet with Jeff Merrick. We played the clip earlier. Each and every day for your playoff coverage, your all-access playoff coverage. Okay, Braden Coots is the recipient of the Brad Horning Memorial Trophy. This is awarded to the WHL's most sportsmanlike player. And yes, we got a sense of the good head on the shoulders of Braden Coots, a calm, collected demeanor in his cameo with the Vancouver Canucks earlier this year, and of course just how mature he looked in training camp in preseason. I also saw a story about his Prince Albert teammate, Daxon Rudolph, who's a right-shot defenseman, could be a top 10, certainly first half of the first round this year. Rudolph, who was crediting Coots for helping him in his game along the way, is a guy 1 year older or earlier through the draft process. Prince Albert starts his Western Hockey League semifinal versus the Ruck Twins from Osoyoos tomorrow against Medicine Hat. Penticton and Everett tonight for Game 1 of the other semi. Games 3 and 4 go at the South Okanagan Event Center Monday, Tuesday. I love it. They're going back to back, Blake. Monday, Tuesday at the SOEC in Penticton in the Western Conference final of the WHL. Caleb Malhotra, 2 goals. He's up to 10 on the postseason. 10.
Yeah. And this one's a lucky one. It goes off a shin and in. The second one he scores is a beauty. Missed shot off the end wall that he pots into an empty net. But, this is what happens when you're on a heater. The puck finds you, right? And so he's scoring for fun. And it's going to be really interesting on draft day. Again, November 5th ends a lot of the speculation, because if we find out the Canucks draft first or second, did I say April? Yeah, May 5th, ends a lot of the speculation. I do not think that they reach for him at 1. I might be able to get convinced they reach for him at 2, but I think Caleb Malhotra is a Canuck only, possibly if they're at number 3. So we'll see what May 5th has for us. But wherever the kid ends up, he's going to be an intriguing watch to see how he turns out as a pro.
And you were mentioning last week, I think, watching some of the CHL playoff series on their streaming service. And look, I know people want to watch Coots, the Canucks prospect. I'm sure we got a lot of people who want to watch the V's, given the great story they are as a first-year WHL team that's now in the Final Four. And I'm sure some even want to watch Gabe Sherrod of the Kitchener Rangers, and they get going against Windsor tomorrow. That's the other Canucks prospect that's still involved. But this Brantford Barrie series, Blake, goodness gracious, is it chock-a-block with NHL draft picks. Like, I'm just looking at the box score from last night. You got Jake O'Brien, the Seattle first-rounder from last year. You have Merrick Vanacker, who was a first-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks. You've got Malhotra, who is going in the first round. You got a nifty little Czech forward that Minnesota, Adam Bednack, that Minnesota took in the 4th round last year. You have Adam Juracek, David's brother, who was a first-round pick. You got Cole Baudouin, who's a first-round pick of Utah. You got Keyshawn Atkinson, who's Aitchison, who's a first-round pick of the New York Islanders. Emil Hemming, who was a high draft pick. Like, this is just first-rounder after first-rounder after first-rounder that's in this series. It's an incredible couple of rosters of junior hockey teams in this Barrie-Brantford series. And it was a close game last night, and look, that could be a whole lot of fun, and particularly if Caleb Malhotra keeps up his scoring ways. What's he up to? 10 goals and how many
10
points?
10 and 5, I think, for in 9 games.
Yeah, and the first 2 series ended quickly too. So
yeah, exactly. He hasn't even played the full
like a
combo.
point and a half per game here in the playoffs. So that could be a lot of fun.
And you know what? We went down the rabbit hole a little bit before the show began. Talking about the worst case scenarios for Caleb Malhotra. If you did make a mistake and what he might turn out to, and we're like, maybe it's a Cody Hodgson, maybe it's a Barrett Hayton, for instance. And I went back for comparison to look at Barrett Hayton's draft year. Caleb Malhotra's blowing away. Caleb Malhotra's draft year is similar to Barrett Hayton's draft +1 in CHL. Those are comparable, but actual draft year, no, he's better than those kinds of players. Guys that don't blow away with any one particular skill. Like Caleb Malhotra is not a 10 out of 10 skater. He's not a 10 out of 10 shooter. It's a nice package. Just put it all together. And those can sometimes be busts because they get to the NHL and they're just not good enough in any one particular thing. So we were trying to think of that. And he's still outperforming a lot of those other guys in their draft year. So.
Yeah, the concern there would be the overdraft based on position, right? Oh, he's a center, and so you take him a little early, and Barrett Hayton was an example. Sperry Kotkaniemi, an example. Kirby Dach was always viewed as a very good prospect, in part because he's huge, but there's another guy who was taken third overall and hasn't really materialized in the National Hockey League. So we'll see where it goes. But goodness gracious, is Caleb Malhotra fun? And that whole series, chock-a-block with future NHLers, is fun. Let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to pregame, postgame. You're mere steps from the arena or the stadium. And if you're looking for a venue for your next private event, whatever that may be, work party, team party, family party, check out Greta. They have an outstanding room in the back. It's up on a riser. It's got its own dedicated bar. You got screens aplenty. You got arcade games aplenty. That's what Greta does. They bring the fun and an awesome menu of approachable street food. Try the tacos. They're absolutely delicious. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to Frank Curado here. Frankie's covering the U18s, which is why he's on Thursday with us, not Wednesday. We do talk to him about the Canucks GM search. We do ask him about Shane Doan and Kevyn Adams and Ryan Johnson in particular. We get a scouting report on Keaton Verhoeff, who is playing for Canada at the U18s. We also talk about Tynan Lawrence, who seems to be rehabilitating his draft stock. He fell on a lot of lists because transferred into Boston University mid-season, wasn't playing or scoring a whole lot, but was viewed as potentially the number 3 overall pick prior to that move, and he is off to an electric start for Canada at the U18. So we talk to Frankie, get his scouting report on those two players, first rounders for sure, here in 2026. And then Canucks Clay. Clay Imoo. Lots of controversy, small C around Clay last week. Yeah, thank you, Blake. Thumbs up. It was revealed that Clay had given up his Canucks season tickets. If they can't keep Clay, who can they keep? Maybe this rebuild is finally going to see a massive dip in attendance at a Rogers Arena for Canucks games. Well, Clay's addressed this a little bit on social media, but we wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth. So we got Clay on the show, and we asked him all the pertinent questions about how a super fan, how the voice of positivity and approachability, even through the leanest times in Canucks history, will no longer be a season ticket member next season. And of course, Clay is just a delightful guy. He will uplift and make your day. He will make your day better if you have a conversation with Clay. We absolutely adore him. So those are our two guests. Later in the program, City Council passed this Major League Baseball initiative. A process has begun to liaise with this incredibly credible group, Blake, that has approached the city looking to bring Major League. Not my words.
Excellent.
That's his worship, Ken Sims' words. Incredibly credible. So we'll talk about that. The C's won again last night. NFL draft goes tonight. Oh, my God, is there a scandal in New England again? This one quite salacious. A goalie goal in soccer, and the Vancouver Warriors prepping for a huge game, playoff game tomorrow in the NLL quarterfinals. All of that is coming up on the program a little bit later. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I got a win last night. I was on Dallas. Took them a while, but they got a win. How'd you do?
I had a Crosby goal. I had to settle for an assist, but that does not give me a win. So
Sydney's not going out meekly in Game 4, right? Like, tell me Sydney and the Penguins have a charge left in them, that their spirit isn't completely broken by Rick Tocchet's system. Please tell me that.
If they figure out the system, it would be interesting to, like, if they got to 3-2 in the series, I'd start to believe, but they got to win a couple games here. And
yeah, because if they got it to 3-2 in the series, like, to me, there's no question who's the more talented team here between these two.
Well, the veterans on Pittsburgh have Hall of Fame resumes.
They also have good players around those guys, too, like Rust, Raquel, Shinikov. Yeah. Like, these guys can play. Anyways, so I'm looking at the NFL draft tonight. I was going to go hockey, but I was like, you know what? You're maybe pushing your luck here on hockey. I'm looking at the NFL draft tonight. So everyone knows Mendoza, the quarterback's going first overall. All the reporting now is that David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, is going to go second to the Jets. We talked about it earlier in the week. Arizona at number 3 is really where the draft gets interesting. They want to trade down, but it's not a great draft this year, particularly at the high end. People aren't anxious to pay the prices that you need to pay to move up to the top 3. So it is quite conceivable that Arizona just takes the running back Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame at number 3. If that's the case, Tennessee at number 4 with their new head coach, Robert Saleh, who, of course, was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco twice, including last year. He foolishly took that Jets job and failed. He loves him some defensive front 7 players. They've invested in that defensive line already. That would mean if those 3 players I mentioned go in order, Arvell Reese, the Ohio State linebacker / edge rusher, he can play 2 positions, would be available for Robert Saleh. I just can't see a defensive-minded head coach like Saleh passing on a guy like that, or somebody blows Tennessee out of the water to move up to number 4. Either way, Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State, to go 4th, pays at plus 650. Love the value.
Matt, I refuse to believe that the Ottawa Senators are going to go down 3-0 to the Carolina Hurricanes. The way the Senators played in the second half of the season, I think they're gamers. I think Travis Green will have the defensive play locked down, and I think that they can even get the 2-goal lead. I've already won once with these bets, the bounce back bets, and this one's on home ice. Senators minus 1.5. You get plus 200. So I'm going Sens.
I know it was the bubble and a lot of people want to discount it, but I thought Travis did some pretty good work with that Canucks run in the bubble, right? They won 2 series and they pushed Vegas to 7 games in the 3rd series, and that was with a bunch of injuries. So I'm with you. I think Travis gets more out of them tonight on home ice. Bet365. Every sports fan will tell you that not all games are created equal. Sometimes excitement just isn't there. Sometimes you get a dud. It happens. But at Bet365, boring games, a thing of the past. There's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. And while they can't make every game exciting, they can help fans get excited about every game. Bet365. Download the app today. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Frank Curado, next. Garrison Price from the Historic Wall Center.
I could not get an earlier flight. That's why I'm still in Toronto. I wish I could just get into a Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, and I would start the cross-Canada journey right now to get back into studio for tomorrow. The electric range will not get me there. 72 kilometers, great for the day-to-day. I'll need to lean on the gas tank for the cross-Canada journey. That's the beauty of the hybrid. You've got options. And it's really fun to drive. I would take this cross Canada. Lots of cargo room in the back. Might pack the golf clubs. Play a couple courses en route. Okay, I won't be back for tomorrow.
Sounds
It'll
delightful.
take me a couple of days. Yeah.
J-Pat will fill in.
You can get one
no
for
worries.
yourself. Yeah. ShopToyota.ca. Red tag days are on now at your Pacific Toyota dealers.
And the truth is, Blake, Frank Curado would love to come visit you at your downtown hotel room, but with traffic in that city coming from Woodbridge, you could probably fly home to Vancouver by the time he gets there.
What's up, buddy?
I sent him a text.
Hi.
I said, Frankie, do you want to come to my hotel room? And I never heard back from him. It was weird.
Dude, it's weird. It's almost like if people ask me to go downtown, my phone has an auto filter and it doesn't even come through. It's like he has no interest in that. Not even gonna make its way through.
No, when you commit to the suburbs in Toronto, you commit to the suburbs.
Yes.
in Toronto. Here he is, former Vancouver Canuck, TSN hockey analyst, doing some work on the under-18s. I do want to ask you about an under-18 prospect or two, but first, Frank, Canucks are hiring a GM. Who's on your list?
I don't know. I haven't gotten a call yet. I was hoping maybe the phone was going to ring. No, I'm just kidding. It's man, like everything in Canucks land, it's fascinating for a number of reasons because of the dynamic with ownership, the dynamic with Jim Rutherford, the decision on your coaching staff, and ultimately like how you're going to reconfigure this roster so that you're a good team soon. There's, as far as I'm concerned, this could go a million different ways. But ultimately, I guess if I had to lean one way, based on who's calling the shots above the general manager, doesn't it feel like it would be someone similar to Patrick Allvin? Like, hey, you're getting a shot to be a GM and you're going to be, somewhat influenced by the people above you. Is that not fair to say?
Well, that's fair to say if Jim Rutherford sticks around, but he dropped that little Easter egg about how he's committed through the draft, and people here don't think Rutherford is long for the team anymore, Frank. Some think he's just going to get everything in place, take him through the draft and walk away. Others say he's going to be in his final year one way or the other. So that's what has added to the complication here, and that's what's added to the multiple lists, with Jim having his candidates, Francesco having his candidates, and then even team president Michael Doyle weighing in with his thoughts. So what do you think about their process here?
It doesn't feel like everyone's on the same page. And if Jim Rutherford is going to leave after the draft, then why even stick around for the draft? Like everyone should get on the same page now so that you have a president and GM that are on the same page before the draft. So you don't go through this with a really important draft for the organization and then say, all right, now we got people moving on and they're not going to be a part of this thing. Like it feels like a critical timeline, but it's almost like all the parties involved are not abiding by the fact that it's a critical timeline. And as far as everyone bringing lists to the table, I mean, realistically, let's just use an example of like a draft. Every scout in the room has their preference of lists and drafts, and they all come together and they compile things and they come up with their master list. So there shouldn't be an issue that like different people are bringing different names to the table. That's not uncommon. But at some point in the process, you have to get down to a short list that everyone can live with, and you're probably talking about 3 candidates. And then at that point, it's like you're working through which person fits what we want to do, our vision, and also who's given you like the path, I guess, of least resistance, right? Like there's going to be one candidate that looks at this group and says, I want to do things totally different than what you want to do. There's going to be someone in the middle, and then there's going to be someone who says, I'm your foot soldier. I'm your guy. I'll do everything the same way. Like, I think that's eventually how you weed things out, but it's not crazy that there's, 3 lists and they're kind of trying to funnel things down a little bit.
Yeah, I said the same thing yesterday. It stands to reason that people come to the table with their own ideas. It's just about whether it can be collaborative from here, and everyone doesn't just get territorial, stick to their list and try and browbeat.
If it's not somebody in hockey ops, that's where people, I think, are having troubles, and that is one of the contentions. Is that it's the chief financial officer that's that's weighing in here, and what's the relevancy there. As for Rutherford, I agree. The draft thing, hasn't rankled a whole lot of feathers for people saying, oh, he'll leave after the draft. It seems a little bit a move of vanity, in that he wants to sort of be a part of one last stroke of genius that would be attributed to him. But you're right. I mean, would it look cleaner if he walks away before the draft?
I mean, how hard is it to sit there at the draft table if you have the 1st or 2nd overall pick and say it's going to be McKenna, or it's going to be Stenberg or Chase Reed or Carls? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I guess in the later rounds, you could have some kind of influence, but realistically, it's the scouts anyways that know the guys in the later rounds. It's the foot soldiers that know those players and who you should be banging the table for. So I don't know. I think it would be odd if he stuck around for the draft and then left shortly afterwards. And then it would also be odd if he was a part of the hiring process of a GM and maybe got his guy and then left the organization. And then as a part of him leaving, the fallout is like, hey, the guy that you hired, the guy that you really wanted, we actually don't want him. So we're going to hire someone else. Like I don't know if that's going to happen, but when the people who want you there eventually leave, it's reality. There's always changes. It's a tale as old as time in the NHL.
Yeah. Let's get on to some of the candidates here. How does Shane Doan strike you?
Well, I mean, Shane Doan is a quote-unquote hockey guy who has been in an organization that has a robust analytics department and a lot of resources. So I think he's a guy who has probably learned a lot while being on the job. As far as what his responsibilities were in Toronto, it's hard to know because there's so many people involved. There were so many AGMs, but I do know, like, he was there in the press box, sitting next to Tree Living and Brandon Pridham. And he was a guy who was coveted and valued when he came over to the organization. And the thing about Shane Doan is you won't find too many people that say a bad thing about him. Like, he is very widely regarded in a positive light. And I think that influence is important to have, right? Like, there's some GMs who walk in a room and players can kind of bitch and moan that the guy, he's not personable or he's got a bad attitude, whatever. But Shane Doan is not that kind of guy, clearly. And then, so I think there's some value to that. But like a lot of other candidates, it's going to be his first time. If it does happen, it would be his first time kind of in the driver's seat. And there's a little bit of an adjustment that comes with that as well.
What about Kevyn Adams from Buffalo?
So it's funny. I was doing Sirius XM radio, and we had Andrew Peters on the show. Remember him? Mm-hmm. And this was in mid to late December, and they had just fired Kevyn Adams, and Buffalo had started their winning streak. Now, the winning streak started 2 games, I believe, before Adams got fired. But I have never heard someone this close to the organization who lives in that city have such a scathing report and horrible remarks on someone. Like, he basically said, like, I'm not going to quote him, but the paraphrasing of it was, as soon as the guy got fired or was getting close to being fired, the players started playing better because they thought there was legitimacy coming back to the organization. I was sitting with Steve Koulias doing that interview, and we couldn't believe what we were hearing. Like, we're looking at each other like, wow, that is crazy stuff. But at the same time, one person can give you that kind of report, and the results on the ice with the team that he has put together could say something totally different. Like, you can say whatever you want, man, but that's an interesting ownership dynamic over there as well. And that team, he put them all there. Like, he made the trade for Bowen Byram. He made the trade for Ryan McLeod. And, like, yeah, it's not overly sexy stuff most of the time, but that's a pretty good team that they've put together. So I don't know where the truth is. It's like anything. You got to dig deep a little bit, but I was shocked to be doing that interview on live radio and hear that from someone who was that close to the product.
I had the same reaction. Apparently, the instigator for that bad relationship with the players was him dropping the hammer on 20 people immediately when he joined when he got the job that was mandated to him by ownership. And so, at that point, he's firing people that the players have everyday dealings with. And so I think that was probably a very bad first impression for a lot of the players, but I don't disagree. It's still scathing, and it's
a double negative. As we talked about yesterday, it's a double negative. It's you're firing all these people and you're upsetting people in your organization, and you're getting rid of some of the people who can help you grow in the role as a first-time general manager. Did we ask you about Ryan Johnson last week?
Yeah, we've talked about RJ.
Okay.
I mean, listen, he's worked at every nook and cranny of hockey operations in that organization. Like there's value in that. I think there's value in knowing what were the right moves, what were the wrong moves. You know the market, you know the ins and outs of everything here. I think there's a lot of value to that, because keep in mind, you're bringing in an outsider. How many months of getting up to speed do you have to go through? How many meetings of, hey, let's go over the history here of what has happened and where did it go wrong do you have to do? And how much does that take away from your current execution time to get things up and running? And he's clearly—
It's a great point.
Yeah, he's clearly been highly coveted around the league too.
Well, he's got all of that intimate knowledge. He's got the experience with, even if it was a different organization, he's just got that experience, period. And then they're kicking tires on guys like Ray Whitney, who have very limited, bits of experience. I mean, doesn't that guy with no experience has to just blow you away for you to consider that person over the person that knows everything about the organization?
Well, the guy with no experience who's going to blow you away is Marty St. Louis, who was coaching Pee Wee hockey and then jumps into the NHL, because I
guess it happens.
Right. He never disconnected himself. He was actually a power play consultant at one point for Columbus. Torts brought him in. But there's something about that guy where you're like, there's a part of me that believes he just knows what he's doing. But that's one in how many? I played professionally for 10 years. If someone told me today I would go behind the bench of an NHL team and have to run the D, I would honestly tell them, like, there's no way I could do this. I need 2 years in the minors. I need serious time to learn how all this stuff works, how you communicate, what you communicate, like what your video process is like. But, I think it's super rare that someone with no experience can come in and do that kind of job and have success with it. Now, someone could look to Brendan Shanahan, let's say, and Trevor Linden came into Vancouver at the same time. But I know in Toronto with Shanahan, the message was, you don't have to know everything right away. What you need to do is hire the best GM that you know. It's Lou Lamoriello, so he's hired. Hire the best coach that you had. It was Mike Babcock. Okay, go ahead, get Mike Babcock. Hire the best up-and-coming talent in front office that you can think of. It was Kyle Dubas. So Kyle Dubas got hired. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's about who you surround yourself with as well.
Just that many years later, right? They won a Stanley Cup just a few years later.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, it all paid off. And from that point forward, there were zero missteps. Zero.
Yes. The story ends so happily.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if Gillis goes there and they win a cup, we're burning 2 cities to the ground.
Yeah.
You're working the U18s. We're interested in your take on some draft prospects, particularly some draft prospects that may fit the Canucks picks. We're having the debate about Verhoeff at number 3, and we did note that Elite Prospects and Hockey News recent rankings released this week both have him pushed down. I think he was number 7 or 8 on the 11, Hockey News list, and he was 11 on the Elite Prospects. What have you made of Verhoeff?
I think what's happened around him is that some of the other defensemen who have emerged, Carls, Chase Reed, the boots are a little more dynamic and a little more elusive, and they have the same puck ability. And that has been the reason why Verhoeff is falling a little bit. Like the guys that he's around have really kind of pushed things forward. He's still going to be a really good player. He's going to be like your prototypical top pairing defenseman in the NHL. I don't doubt that. And it was an interesting, I guess, second half of the year for him. He only had 3 points in his last 14 games, But I think there would be a lot of scouts who would look at him and say, we appreciate he challenged himself and didn't just stay put and put up 80 points in the WHL. Like, we like the fact that he recognized he needed to push himself and challenge himself. And if his draft stock tumbles a little bit because of it, so be it. He'll be better in the long run. But that's kind of my grasp on why he's not your surefire second overall pick as of now.
Yeah. I know you got to run, but I want to get one more in here. Tynan Lawrence, who we haven't discussed a lot on this program because the idea was he was moving down rankings because he went to Boston University, saw his ice time limited and wasn't quite producing. He was awesome in the pre-tournament game. He was their player of the game yesterday. Is there a world where the Canucks pick third overall and they're a little hesitant to draft Caleb into Manny's organization? Talk to me about Tynan Lawrence.
See, the thing is,
today, by the way,
he had a good game today. He's a good player. He's all about his motor. He's all about his energy, his feet. He really takes pride in the defensive side of the puck. The thing, if you compare him to Caleb Malhotra, is Lawrence is not going to have the same offensive upside. So I think if you're drafting him, expecting him to be a franchise-altering number one center, you're going to be disappointed. He's going to be a really good number two for a team if everything pans out. And you're going to be happy with that because he's going to be a really complete player and he's going to care about all these things. Like, he's the kind of guy that a coach loves because he just continues to move. He drives the front of the net. He gets available for defensemen. There's so many good habits that he has already that points are not going to be the whole story for him. But that's where someone else who has a little more offensive upside, I think a team says, okay, if we're picking top 5, we're going to take the higher ceiling maybe rather than the higher floor, and that drops you a couple spots.
Yeah, Lawrence sounds a lot like Braden Coots, actually, the way you describe him.
Yeah,
so,
a little bit, yeah.
You're a busy boy. Thank you for the time. Appreciate this. Catch up next week.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. Our next guest is a Canucks content creator. He's the co-host of Canucks After Dark, a super fan known across the province and one of the most positive and uplifting people you could ever come across. It is our pleasure to welcome to the program Mr. Clay Imoo, a.k.a. Canucks Clay for all of you on social media. How you doing, fella?
I'm doing great. Hello, Blake. Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate being with you. And can you truly be a super fan if you're not going to go to all 41 games or 42 games
Wow,
next year?
this is what I hear that
You may have to hand it back.
The Lions are courting you. The Whitecaps are wooing you, Clay. You're the most popular guy or fan in town. Okay, we're bringing you on to tell us the real here. You are no longer going to be a Canucks season ticket holder going forward. Many made a lot about that, saying if they can't keep Clay, who can they keep? Tell us the reason.
Sure. And I appreciate your kind words. I know I gave you a bit of content a couple of weeks ago when the news broke. And really quickly, it wasn't meant to be news. I was actually responding to someone else's tweet who didn't even tag me. So I responded to their tweet. I said, yes, just for now, I'm taking a break. And then our friend Taj and others got a hold of it. And then it got to a place where I felt like, whether you don't call it damage control, but just tell my own story, control the narrative a little bit. And therefore I put out my own little, it wasn't supposed to be an announcement, just a tweet saying, here are my reasons. So Matt, Blake, truly, as a 51-year-old man, and Blake, you'd appreciate this with adult kids and stuff, life happens, change happen. And really for me, bottom line, it's a reallocation of time, energy, and money. And I've always said I've spent a lot of those 3 things on this team by choice. I'm not looking for a pity party. No one's forcing me to do this, but I've spent with my show 5 nights a week at 11. You guys know what that's like. There's a lot of time and energy that goes into that. Time and energy going to the rink, time and energy reselling when I can't go, which is very rarely, thankfully. But the money, quite frankly. And when I have a kid getting married, when I have kids going through university, and just making my own lifestyle changes, it's not always easy to justify dropping a lot of money on the Canucks. So those are my true reasons. I'm all for the rebuild. I get it. Like I've been there for 15 years. I get it. As long as it's done with a plan, and we can talk about that. But and the atmosphere in the arena has been fine. I love the team, and that's the one thing that I think people are missing. They think that I'm falling off the bandwagon. How can you call me a bandwagon guy? Anyways, falling off the bandwagon or not supporting the team. No, I'm still going to get into the arena, just maybe 5 or 10 times as opposed to 25 or 30. So,
but the key question that people want to know, Clay, the key question people want to know, if this team was good in any way, shape, or form, was projecting in most people's minds to be a playoff team next year, would you have made the same decision?
Excellent question. I think it would give me pause. I can honestly say to you, Blake, it'd probably be 50-50. Probably maybe leaning more toward keeping them. So the what I saw when I was in the arena, admittedly, it does shade me a little bit too, for sure, because you're spending that time, energy, and money covering, watching the team, cheering for the team, most importantly, and it was hard to do so. But I know I'll be there 5 or 10 times, next season. I know I'll be back probably as a season ticket holder in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, even maybe kind of mirroring the rebuild. But I can still cheer on the team. I'm still the same fan. I might have even more time to sit here in my home studio and talk about them as well.
So 9-27-5 on home ice this year, Clay. That did factor into the decision.
Yeah, a little bit, admittedly. And I know you referenced my season ticket partner, Mike. You know what's the other thing, Matt and Blake, I want to say is this was a joint decision. It wasn't just me, wanting to make an announcement on Twitter or X and try and drum up whatever interest that way. I'm 15 years in. I started in the 2010-2011 season, obviously a great time to come in. But my season ticket partner, Mike, he's actually been 25 years. So he has his reasons too that you guys have outlined. And for him, it was a lot of the things that I said, but he didn't like the price increase, which a lot of people didn't like. And he didn't like the fact that, again, a smaller factor, but resale for the games, the very few games we can't go to, it's actually hard to get rid of them. And it's never been that challenging. So those are his public facing decisions. I have mine, and you put them all together and we made a joint decision that we were very comfortable with. Yeah.
So your tickets were going up, Clay.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I've later been told or explained that and I get this, that is the cost of, moving one of the exhibition games to regular season game. And I get that. I've seen their pricing models and I get that. I'm not stupid, right? I get that everything in the world's going up. I get all that. It's just, for some, it's hard to fathom given the lack of success we've seen on the team. The entertainment's been okay. I love the young guys, but when you see 9 wins out of 41, if you went to every game, that is pretty taxing.
That's reasonable. I mean, I think a lot of people are in your boat. I mean, it's a reasonable thing to say, and it's a hard thing to intersect with the belief in the rebuild. Like, the market is almost unanimous, it seems, that they want the rebuild. But I think in a similar path, equally relevant is, but I'm not going to pay to go and see it necessarily. And it's why teams don't want to rebuild, right?
Yes. And great point, Blake. And both can be true. Exactly. Like, I think the smart fans and analysts like you, we recognize that it has to be done. Well, the team recognizes it has to be done. You can see what they've been doing over the past 4 months. But it can also be true that I don't want to spend as much as I used to while doing this, and I can come back. It doesn't mean you any less of a fan. We can't gatekeep. We're not going to, right? I have no right to judge someone else's fandom. Just like I get a chuckle when people say, "Oh, he's Canucks Clay's typical bandwagoner, typical Vancouver Canucks fan, typical fair weather fan," and it doesn't bother me, honestly, because they don't know who I am, and it's fine.
Well, it bothers me because, quite frankly, no, it does, because quite frankly, if there was anybody who was there for them through the most recent dark chapter, some of those Benning years, Willie Desjardins coached teams where they not only lost a lot, they weren't scoring a whole lot of goals. I mean, they didn't even have players the likes of Hughes and whatnot, right? Like, that was a tough watch on a lot of nights. And Clay, you were there every game, or every game you could make. You were still uplifting, looking for the positive side. I mean, talking about being with the team through thick and thin. I mean, you were there for them in their thinnest of years. Yeah. So I think that's what caught people when it came out, is like, whoa, if Clay, who rode with them through all those difficult seasons that are Benning and Desjardins, is no longer back, that must say something about the club.
Yeah, and I've never, purported or promoted myself to be the voice of the fans or whatever, but I do recognize the responsibility I have and the privilege I have when I still have 75 to 100 people watching my show at 11 p.m. at night. I'm not smart to go like you guys at noon, and I would never go against you guys, but I'm at 11 p.m. settled down here, and I still have people coming, and it's not because of me per se, it's because of the community that we've built, guys. And that's the one thing that I really treasure. And so I don't want anyone to misconstrue this and say, yeah, I love the team. I still love the team. I really do. And I'm not worried that they're going to come after. No, it's nothing like that. They've given me so many opportunities to try things that other fans haven't. Like, I've played the organ before a game. I've done all those goofy parody songs that were cool like 10 years ago, not maybe so much now. And you guys know all this. So I love the team, and I want to continue to support them, and I will continue to support them, but you can support them in different ways. So Blake, back to your all full circle, back to your point. Yeah, I think you can be a good fan and say, I get that we have to rebuild, but you can also say, I might not watch it as much as I used to in person, and I'll find other ways to support and cheer this team on.
Small correction, Clay. The songs were never cool, but hey, I will not dissuade you from doing them in the future.
But the piano playing was expert. I mean, it was worthy of symphony orchestra, Clay, here on the Ivories.
I will say this. Say what you want at production values, Blake, or maybe the lyrics. That's fine. I'll take that from you, even though I did invite you to be in one. But I'm a smart guy. I'm the guy who plays the piano. I let beautiful, talented people like Marie Huey sing.
That's right.
99% of the people are not watching the videos to see the fat Asian guy playing the piano. I'll tell you that much. That's all I'll say right now.
I'll sing for your next one. I promise.
Okay.
He's the brains behind the operation. He's the orchestrator. He's the conductor. He's just not the face. It's Murray.
There you go.
Have you heard directly from the Canucks, or was it just from the season ticket agent who's like, hey, why aren't you coming back? Or was it somebody higher up? What's been the reaction from the club?
Yeah. So admittedly, 99% of my interaction with the club has been great. It really has. And I truly mean that. When I put out that tweet, I was a little bit concerned because I do know, and we've heard that they are quite aware of what influencers, big and small, they're saying on social media. So Blake, to answer your question, I got an email from one of the season ticket, one of the higher ups. But I'm convinced, and I believe him when he said that this call had nothing to do with my post. It happened to be after my post, but the email was set up a time to talk about why, if they can change my mind about coming back. And we talked about this post that you're showing for literally 10 seconds. He acknowledged it, but we didn't go into it. I didn't even have to explain myself. He gets it. He's smart, the guy I spoke to. And he just basically gave me a soft deadline for May to reconsider, and a couple of things that might entice me to come back. So those are things that, to make a good decision, I'll talk to my partner, Mike, about, and we'll make a decision by mid-May. So yes, they did talk to me, but it had nothing to do with my post.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you made of the last week? No more Alvin and the way they're going about replacing it.
Yeah. When you're 32nd in the league by a wide margin, something had to give, whether it was 1, 2, or all 3 of the guys up top. I actually thought it was going to be Adam Foote. I thought that Rutherford Alvin would have a chance to see this through. But as soon as you guys saw, that news broke on Thursday night after the season finale, it made sense to me. It makes sense to me. You always wondered how much power Alvin actually had. You actually wondered how much decision-making authority he had with Rutherford, and then of course with Francesco. So the alignment, I'm not sure if it was completely there. It didn't look like it on the ice. So then maybe you presume there's not a lot of alignment off the ice. But I'm certainly I'm trying to find out if any of the 3 of us are on that third list. I don't know if you guys have heard anything, but we'll see.
I have not been told. I've not been asked for an interview. No.
Who's on the Clay list?
Quite frankly, I'd be happy with Ryan Johnson. I really would. And I get this juxtaposition between Rutherford's new guard list, and I've heard you guys talk about it every day over the past couple of days, versus maybe the owner's old guard list. I voted first timer on your poll yesterday. I want a newcomer. I think it's the way to go. And with the implications for Rutherford, who knows? Stay a bit, stay long, succeed 2 people, 1 people, whatever it may be. I think you got to get new blood in here. And with Sonny Mehta and other guys that you see kind of gain this chance, I'm all for Ryan Johnson. And I get why Rutherford said what he had to say. He kind of name dropped him. And then 2 seconds later, he said, but we're going to kind of expand it. But I think Johnson is Rutherford's guy. We'll just see how much influence or non-influence that will have over the owner.
Have you sunk your teeth into the draft yet? Have you formed an opinion on who you want to be the next Vancouver Canuck?
Yeah, Blake, I'm not a big draft guy. I will do a lot of research once we pick a guy, and then I'll make some content about it. But I'm not the first guy you'll run to. write down whatever Cam says, and I try and repeat it and sound as good as him.
Good idea.
But
That's a good process.
Yeah. I think we all do that. But I am interested in number 3. I think 1, 2 are slam. In my opinion, McKenna, Stenberg are slam dunks. But if they fall to 3, statistically, the probability. I've heard what Cam said about Verhoeff about dropping a bit. I've heard both Chase Reed and Caleb Malhotra. Does it mean Manny? Does that increase the chances or not? Who knows? I don't know about all that kind of stuff. But I am interested in Reed and Malhotra as number 3 for sure.
So in the wake of your news, and I think this speaks to who you are, Clay, and how valuable you are as a fan, as a customer, and as a influencer. The Lions and the Whitecaps both tweeted at you, my dude. So, they're courting you to come on over and be the new super fan of the Lions or the Whitecaps. Where does that all stand?
So my son Sean, he has a coworker named Andrew Delbear, who's quite does a lot on social. He actually photoshopped me into you know Andrew. He called it Caps Clay, and he put me in the nice little kit, right, the Whitecaps kit. And that was just on his thing. Then the Lions, amongst some of the other accounts, they said, yeah, come across the street, obviously the Georgia Viaduct, and you look good in black and orange. And I said, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, I remember the days when they were packing 59,000 people, Rocket Ishmael, Doug Flutie, all those guys, right? So I've been a Lions fan for a long time. And then the Whitecaps said, Caps Clay has a nice ring to it or something. And that was good. But you know what's funny, guys? The Lions kept their tweet up, but the Caps took theirs down. And I'm not trying to cause anything. It's just a reality, because I went to look at it and show off to all my friends, and I couldn't find one of them. So Whitecaps, took theirs down. The Lions put it up. But I think they're having a little fun. I get to each of those franchises, a couple games a year, but certainly not the same time, energy, money they do the Canucks. But it's not LeBron James, the decision type hype, but I'm sure I'll get over there a few times this season.
Marie still sings the national anthem every once in a while at BC Place. You could join her on keyboards, maybe. You could do something like that every time that she sings.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of companies, Blake, but maybe it's time to start a new trend, I think. Yeah.
I think so.
As long as they don't give me a mic, and that's what they all say in their production meetings, too.
I got to say, Clay, I asked you the second time. We mentioned you declined the first time. I said, I got to ask Clay again. I can't just take one no from Clay. So we were absolutely delighted you reconsidered and decided to join us here today. Canucks After Dark daily or weekdays at 11 p.m., a safe space for fans, and you're going to need it, I think, going forward. And Clay's an old hand at this. This isn't the first time that he has done a show through a fallow period in Canucks history. And we'll look for you on the Jumbotron at Lions and Whitecaps games, right? That's the next step here.
You'll find me somewhere, I'm sure. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you both.
Thanks, Clay. We got to get the signature before you leave.
God bless, and go Canucks go.
So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center in the Pacific Toyota dealer studio built by Arbor Leach. You're harder when you're well rested. Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center puts you minutes from the arena, miles ahead the next morning. Lock in your game day stay. wallcenter.com. Well, Vancouver City Council has approved this city-initiated bid process for a Major League Baseball expansion team. The formal process says there are serious proponents that have come forward, and Mayor Ken Sims saying this did not come out of left field. Now, this was expected. Mayor Sims' party has a majority on council, so it passed 8-1. The only dissenter was Councilman Sean Orr. Sims said at council it was prompted by, quote, interested parties that are incredibly credible, incredibly credible, that want to bring a team to Vancouver. We're asking proponents to come forward, demonstrate their capacity, and outline what a partnership with the city could look like. The mayor added that the group came to the city unsolicited. I say group because he says proponents plural, so I can only imagine there's more than one money guy if that's how they're phrasing it. Sims said the identity of these proponents would be revealed after the bidding process. And he said there's also fair opportunity here for other parties to come forward and make their proposal. He reiterated no public funding will be used for any costs associated with bringing a team or building a stadium. But he did, when pressed, according to the Daily Hive, acknowledge, or at least did not rule out, that the use of city-owned lands to build a stadium could be a part of this.
Opening up the P&E possibility there, perhaps, if the Whitecaps don't use it. Yeah,
that's right. Also, so going forward here, interested parties, according to the Daily Hive, will be required to demonstrate financial capacity, relevant experience, and a feasible ownership and governance model, in addition to proposing the terms of their relationship with the city. Relevant experience is interesting. I mean, unlikely they have experience running a Major League Baseball team, but I do wonder if that means this group has, experience running other sports.
Now, again, regarding the
60 days, city staff will be reporting back to council in 60 days. So in a couple of months, we'll know more.
For those that missed the reporting on this initially, like we'd come to know, I got texted a couple of times in the fall. I think you were a part of that text chain from this particular source. Guys, you wouldn't believe it. That Major League Baseball thing that I told you about, it's still happening. They are still very injured. We had that months ago. We didn't feel like it was credible. Not that the source was incredible. I didn't feel like the actual interest was credible. And here we are. So
this was mentioned to us the weekend that the Caps hosted LAFC before 50,000+ at BC Place in November. And our understanding is that this group or this person was in attendance that day at the Caps game.
Tour BC Place.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it could or couldn't be a part of the solution. Yeah.
Like our mutual source, we trust him. It just seems so pie in the sky. And to a degree, it still seems very pie in the sky because of the associated costs with starting up this franchise. And if you missed it a couple of days ago, the San Diego Padres sold, or at least agreement in principle, for a $3.9 billion price tag on the Padres. So you have to think the expansion fee is going to be at least $4 billion, plus it's going to be several more billion to get a stadium up and going, not to mention all the other associated costs with baseball. And as we talked about last week, baseball is probably the heaviest lift of all the four major sports in terms of starting up a franchise, because you not only have to get your stadium and everything together in the city where you operate, you got to get a spring training complex going, you've got to get academies going in the Dominican and Venezuela, you've got to get minor league affiliations. So it is a much heavier lift than some other leagues.
And you're also, Major League Baseball is not greenlighting an owner that if it's $4 billion for the team and $2 billion for the stadium, and you're able to cobble together $6.1 billion, Major League Baseball is not going, yeah, that sounds good to us. They want you to have $12 billion, of which $6 billion you're using here. So, like, again, it has to be exorbitant wealth.
Now, the one thing going for a prospective owner is the second you buy the team, it's worth more than what you paid for it. It's kind of like the opposite of buying a new car, right? You take a new car off the lot, it depreciates immediately. At the level of Major League Baseball, you buy a franchise, you're pretty sure the only way it's going is up in price tag based on what we've seen with sports franchise valuations over the last, really forever, but particularly the last decade or so.
It's been 30 years for baseball since they last expanded. Yeah. Like it feels like everybody just expands every 5 years, but it's been a while.
They have been very judicious. Of course, they had labor unrest in '94, had to cancel the rest of the season and the World Series. In fact, I think that's probably one of the things that prevented baseball or dissuaded baseball from expanding previously, is that had been the sport with the most labor unrest until Gary got into the chair in the NHL, and then hockey took over. So anyways, we'll see where this is going. I told you earlier in the week, I know another person in town who's a serious person and telling me you guys have this all wrong, or at least far more optimistic about this possibility than we initially were. We'll see. As for the current Vancouver baseball team, they remain hot. Canadians win their fourth in a row, 2-0 over Tri-City at the Nat last night. A second straight splendid start for starting pitcher Daniel Guerra. He's the reigning Northwest League Pitcher of the Week, and he put in 5 scoreless innings yesterday, striking out 3. Kalina Sauer with 2 scoreless innings for the save. So he's back at it tonight, 7 p.m. at the Nat. Then 1 p.m. starts tomorrow through Sunday. And we have a new fascination and fan favorite at the ballpark. Welcome back to Vancouver, Peyton Williams, a.k.a. the Iowa meat truck. The hefty first, there he is.
The Iowa meat truck.
The hefty first baseman is back with the C's. He was a 2024 Northwest League All-Star, working his way back up from Dunedin. He's built like, well, an Iowa meat truck. Former Hawkeye hits the ball a long way, so all of you in the Hey All porch and left field, have your gloves ready and get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or Canadians Baseball.
And the weather's turning. It's going to be great the rest of the week, so don't worry about it.
NFL Draft, first round goes tonight. The New England Patriots hold the 31st pick, and head coach Mike Vrabel, at least as of this minute, will be participating in their war room before taking leave from the club Saturday for counseling. This after another explosive New York Post story showing photos of him and Diana Rossini, former NFL insider with The Athletic, kissing at a New York City bar, and these photos taken 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Whoa.
Rossini was a beat reporter in Nashville covering the Titans when Vrabel was the head coach. The Post had the original story a couple of weeks ago about Rossini and Vrabel together at a Arizona resort. Rossini, as mentioned, has resigned from The Athletic, claimed the visit was platonic. They were simply friends. There were other friends in attendance, although oddly, none of the other friends appeared in any photos. Vrabel initially told the Post the photos were of an innocent interaction and any further suggestion would be laughable. It's been reported the Patriots hired a PR crisis firm to try and squash the story, unsuccessfully as it turned out. Yesterday, Vrabel finally addressed the media on this, said, quote, "I've had some difficult conversations with people that I care about, with my family, the organization, the coaches, the players. Those have been positive and productive. I believe in order to be successful on and off the field, you have to make good decisions. That includes me. That starts with me. We never want our actions to negatively affect the team. We never want to be the cause of distraction. These are comments and questions that I've answered for the team and with the team. We'll keep those private and to ourselves." Another scandal with the New England Patriots. And Rossini's statement now doesn't look very good given what Vrabel is doing and now in light of these new photographs. As for the draft itself, NFL insider Jay Glazer is teasing something explosive is going to happen tonight. Now, we still don't have word from Aaron Rodgers if he's coming back for a 22nd NFL season at age 42. The draft is in Pittsburgh, so people are wondering, oh, okay, is there going to be a big reveal where Aaron Rodgers declares he'll be coming back? If not, Steelers certainly in the market for a quarterback.
But they should be in the market anyway, because if he's coming back, it's only for one more year. So, like, draft your guy now. Not that he's a huge I don't think he's taking on any Padawans, Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy to be a teacher and mentor. But still, you got to plant the seeds now for your future. My goodness.
The Steelers have a pick in the 20s tonight. It's not going to be enough Fernando Mendoza is going first overall to the Raiders. It's 21st overall pick tonight for the Steelers. People are wondering, they're going to take the Alabama quarterback, Ty Simpson, or are they going to go elsewhere? Their former coach, Mike Tomlin, signing up with NBC to do Sunday night football going forward. Seahawks, as we know, with the 32nd and final pick in the first round, but GM John Schneider has already forecast that he is going to move back into round 2, which means they probably won't make a selection tonight. He wants to accumulate more picks. They only have 4. That's a league low in this draft. A goalie goal. No, not a hockey goalie. A soccer goalie. And listen to the call here last night on Apple Television.
Bonkers match.
You were there to call it. TFC gets the tie at the death with Luke Gavrin. You're telling me he's 6'6"?
Yeah.
He looks every bit of that. I mean, he's dwarfing his teammates there in the celebration. Look at how excited they were for him.
Just spectacular technique too. Like if you slow it down, if you can, want to watch it again on your phone or something. Like it looks like Erling Haaland in the box. Like it was just spectacular finish.
You're telling me he had a striker background. He used to be an out player.
Yeah.
It's just the third ever goal by a keeper in 31 seasons of MLS play. It's the first in the last 16 years. You'd see his teammates. I mean, they would have been excited regardless of who tied the game. But my goodness, when your keeper
I've seen one of the other keeper goals. One of them was everybody had sort of congregated in the middle of the field, and the keeper went over top of everybody and just caught the other keeper out. So, like, that's great. It's just a
but that's fluky.
But it's not finish. Like this
that's
is like
right.
A goalkeeper with a finish.
It's a goal scorer's goal, as you say.
Yes.
The technique. No idea. Yeah.
All the goals were, one goal late in the first half, in stoppage time in the first half, and then 5 goals in the second half. And all the celebrations, because these are two teams that really wanted to win last night. The celebrations after every goal were spectacular, and needless to say, that one was, it took the cake.
Pièce de resistance. San Jose annihilates Austin 5-1, so they temporarily move into first place of MLS and of the Western Conference, half game ahead of the Caps. Vancouver home Saturday, 7:30. Idle last night. Home Saturday.
They're still clear of 4 points on third and fourth place with the game in hand.
7:30 Saturday versus Colorado, and what expected to be a big crowd at BC Place. More than 23,000 tickets already sold. So Thomas Mueller will be pleased. They're packing the park. Vancouver Warriors tomorrow at Rogers Arena in a single elimination NLL quarterfinal versus Halifax. And as we mentioned earlier in the week, this is not a pushover game for Vancouver, despite the fact that they are the number 1 seed and Halifax is the 8th seed, the last team in the National Lacrosse League playoffs. Halifax goalie Warren Hill almost stole the game a few weeks ago against the Warriors. Thunderbirds were winning 6-4 going into quarter 4. Warriors have also had their offensive struggles early in games of late. The exception was last week versus last place Philadelphia, but they've been living dangerously, needing comebacks in tight games late. Our friend and former intern Jaden Tasha works with the Warriors. He was telling me the key here, get up by a few goals and then lean on your backbone. The fine goalkeeper, Christian Del Bianco, let him do his thing. As we know, Del Bianco is arguably the greatest goalie in NLL history. Everything changed when they made the trade to acquire him from Calgary middle of last season. This is one of the biggest games in Vancouver lacrosse history, or at least Vancouver Warriors lacrosse history. So expecting a good crowd, and needless to say, an expectant public now with this team, right? You're the number 1 seed. You're expected to win. Single elimination. Very, very scary. Should be great drama at Rogers Arena tomorrow. Results of the poll question from yesterday. We asked you, what kind of GM do you want the Canucks to hire? A first-timer or an experienced guy? Blake, what won the poll?
I think they said first-timer.
They did. Percentage?
63. Ooh, close.
62. Pretty good, Blake. Leo, we already had 2 first-time GMs, and they both failed miserably. Yep. A lot of people are mentioning that. Many took issue with the question. Nasmo, this question doesn't matter. It depends on the individual. Yep, fair enough. And we talked about that yesterday. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. This is by way of omission. I'm not going to take the E on this one.
No.
But I said both of Vancouver's pro hockey teams could be picking first overall. We talked about the Golden Eyes and how when we talked yesterday to their GM, Kara Gardner-Morey, they were in the pole position for the first overall pick via the gold plan, points accumulated after you're eliminated from postseason contention. As we know, the Canucks have a chance to pick first overall as well. So I said both our pro teams picking first overall. Should mention, Vancouver Giants picking second overall in the WHL draft. It has been that kind of year.
Yeah. Quite a run for the Vancouver hockey clubs. The
Oh,
good
my
news
goodness.
is there's going to be top-end prospects of every level, I
Yeah.
guess. You got that to look forward to here in Vancouver?
Yeah, and you'll remember a few weeks ago we were talking about consecutive Saturdays where our hockey teams went 0 for 4 on the same day.
Yeah.
Yikes. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time. And please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.